really, and I'll try to do my best.
And we're on. And with that being said, my name is Raphael. Welcome so much to the channel, or in this case, to the live stream. It's called The Geeks Are Talking because usually it's a bunch of geeks like myself and Ivan tonight discussing guitars mostly, and life, and the meaning of the universe and everything. Thank you so much if you are joining us live or if you are catching us up on the replay. If you would like to support this channel and to, keep this one going, because we're here on a Friday night, not going out, gigging and and listening to live music. Probably we should have been maybe better ideas, but it's because we really think that what we're saying here might be of interest to some of you. So if you'd like to leave a like or subscribe to the channel so we can continue to do this, it'll be great. Today here with me, we have Ivan of Iconic Guitars, not the American Iconic Guitars. We'll have to discuss who came up first with the name, but they're not doing so well at the moment, so it's all good. Which is, I don't even know what title to call you, a luthier, a guitar tech, an instructor, a guitar player, a little bit of everything. But I saw his posts on Facebook, and I could tell straight away that it was someone that had quite a lot of knowledge and probably could teach me a thing or two about building guitars, about finishing, about maintaining a guitar and everything. Ivan, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raphael, for having me on your channel. I'm honoured. So.
Thank you for coming, for taking time away from your start of the weekend to be here talking with me. So tell me, what do you do exactly? The first thing that I saw was that you were building the Coban Guitars kits, and that's how I found about your Facebook profile. But tell me a bit more about yourself. What do you do at the moment, guitar-wise?
Okay. Well, yeah, I have been and still am a guitar teacher, and I've done that for 20 years now as a professional business. But I also, because I've been playing guitar for over 40 years, in fact, I started in about 1976. I've always repaired my own guitars, and that's gone alongside it. So I had a shop, and I worked in a shop as well called Sundown Guitars, which was in the town where I live here. So I just started, setting up guitars and repairing them, set up a shop, and gradually lots of things came. And so I've learned on the go, really, from other people, and from people like, I don't know if you've heard of Robbie Gladwell, but he's amongst other things, he played guitar for a few famous people, but he's also very good guitar tech. Me, am I a guitar tech? I'm a kind of a guitar repairer, teacher, all those things. I probably haven't got those.
All of the above, isn't it?
I call myself a guitar builder, perhaps, in my part-time.
Luthier is this floaty title that people have in very high esteem, isn't it?
That sounds a bit too posh for me.
Yes. Well, you are from the south of England, so that's the posh side of it, isn't it? So you mentioned that you started playing in '76. So how old were you when you started playing and getting into music?
I was actually 12 years old, and it started really. My uncle used to work for a Marconi radar, radar company in Ipswich, and he always gave me, I don't know if I was supposed to, but he used to bring these sheets home with circuits for things. And he taught me how to read circuit shorthand and solder, and that's how I started. And then I wasn't really interested in guitar to start with. I was more interested in keyboard. But I built an amplifier, I think, after a fashion, and I wanted something to use to play through it. So I built my first guitar, and that happened to be, I'm old enough for this, happened to be at the time Bohemian Rhapsody came out in 1975, Christmas. And I built my own guitar because I realised that Brian May built his own guitar. So I thought I'll have a go at that. My grandmother had a load of mahogany given her for firewood and an old classical neck. And that was the beginning of it, really.
Well, indeed, to imagine, to have lived for the time where Bohemian Rhapsody was a new song It's
Yeah, it was around the charts for 9 weeks, and at Christmas, in fact, the famous film, which was live at the Hammersmith Odeon, was actually live on Christmas Eve that year.
Oh, wow.
So my inspiration came from, I didn't know, I knew they were Queen, but I got the album, A Night at the Opera, immediately, and worked out this guy was named Brian May, and I looked him up. Obviously, without the internet in those days, I don't know how you found things out in that day.
The magazines, the newspapers, the
Sounds or Melody Maker or something. And it wasn't long before they were saying this guy built his own guitar, and I thought, that's fantastic. I'd like to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's an inspiring tale, isn't it, of Dr. May? We have here on the comments Dave, that usually hosts with me. He's not feeling so great today, so he wasn't able to join us. But if you have any questions, Dave, just pop them in the chat and we'll try to go through them. And once again, we have the amazing Peter Collins that plays in a Motown and soul band called Miss Salt here in the northwest of England, and is a regular as well. He keeps us company on the Friday night. Very well. So from starting, building your own guitar, from being inspired from Brian May and working with Mr. Gladwell, and also teaching. So do you build guitars because it's something that is just like your hobby that you like doing, or is it to try to do something different that's not readily available? Is it just sometimes just because guitars can be really, really expensive, and you thought, no, I can do this myself and get better results, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it started because when I first wanted to play a guitar, I certainly couldn't afford a guitar, and I didn't know much about them. And this uncle of mine who worked for Marconi Radar, few people gave me things, and this is where it started. So he told me something about I don't know why he would have known this, but about the fret, the calculation, to work out the position of the frets, and that the 12th fret, the bridge needs to be the same distance from the 12th fret as it was from the nut. So that's where I started. And then I built this guitar with, I cut it out with a coping saw, believe it or not, and it took me my whole summer holiday to do
just
that.
the thick mahogany with the coping.
In cutting a 1.5 inch piece of mahogany, so I cut it kind of to the shape. In fact, I've still got that guitar upstairs. I won't show it to you now; I'd be embarrassed. But, so I bolted and glued the neck on, and it was playable after a fashion, but of course it was solid. So I needed a pickup, and this uncle actually pulled some headphones apart, and he said, "You need steel strings." Pulled these headphones apart, and I put the innards of the headphones underneath the strings and put it through my cassette recorder, and hey presto, it fed back. So that was the first thing which scared me the life out of me to start. But then my mum bought me a single coil pickup from a place called Bell Musical Instruments, which advertised in the local paper, and it was kind of very cheap Strat kind of single coil. So I put that on there, and it sounded okay. And then after that, I had a Woolworths guitar that, if anybody remembers Woolworths, but an electric guitar from there. And then I didn't really like that. I mean, it was a better guitar in the playability, but it didn't sound as good as my guitar, which was made out of a solid piece of mahogany. So I thought, hold on, that's, there must be something in this, because I didn't know if the wood type made any difference. And it wasn't until later that I discovered that people like Gibson and things used mahogany. So I had a mahogany neck and a mahogany body with this pickup on, and it gave me a lot of sustain. So I guess in answer to your question about why did I do it, I think it was because I thought probably I could do, I knew the sound I wanted. I always hear for the sound. If I listened to Led Zeppelin or something, I could hear that there was a sound that was different to, the cheap guitar that I had. So I thought, okay, I think I'll try and build that. And, whether through stupidity or whatever, I don't know. I go, and I was hooked, really. You know?
It's once you start, and you start seeing results. It's like, oh, okay, so this worked. Why not try something else? Um, just in the meantime, Dave here is asking that he's been working on his bolt guitar, which is like a Telecaster style, and is running into some problems into dinks on the neck. Any tips? Any quick tips on removing dinks or marks?
Okay, yeah. So I mean, the first thing to do is, if you can. I don't know. It's not finished at the moment. It's just raw wood, I'm thinking.
Just with the stain, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, if it's still unfinished, then probably you get some 400 grit of some description, and just try and mellow it out, really, so you can't see it. That would be my advice. Just make sure it's straight, so you've got something like a piece of wood or anything that's straight, that's not going to make it go kind of up and down on the back of the neck. You want it to be flat, but just try and get it out as best you can. It says it has clear on it. Yeah. So you can kind of. It's a technique, really, but the best thing is to just kind of sand it until you can't see it. Really, that would be my advice. Nothing too aggressive. Do it with something like 320 or 400. If it's lacquered, then that's a different thing. You have to know what the kind of lacquer is and build it up. That can be a trickier thing. But if it's still raw wood, then just sand it, with your hand or something like that.
I think my tip would be if he's building, it's like a wipe-on varnish. It will be, if it's in the woods, either send it back down and do like Adam said, or just build enough material. Even you put super glue, I guess, because it hardens faster. But
I would because I've tried super glue, and I know that Stu Mack, advised. I haven't had great success with that. I tend to would choose lacquer of some description. I mean, usually something like acrylic lacquer, even the sort of acrylic lacquer that you can get in a body shop. Yes. Yeah, because it will be like the lacquer on the neck. So just check it in a small place to make sure it doesn't react with it or something. But that will probably be okay. Build it up in very thin layers, sand it back, and then, or if it's poly, use that. Whatever the type of lacquer or finish it is. I mean, if it was true oil, that would be very thin. But you'd kind of just keep building up, then sand it back with 600 or 800 or something like that, and then till it's flat. Really, I wouldn't recommend using super glue, because you can't. I don't know how you would put color into super glue, but once it's dry, it's
slightly more opaque, isn't it, than everything else?
Nothing will stick to it. And you've got a problem. You have to dig it out again and go back to the wood. So I would tend to lacquer it until it looks right. Really.
Looks right. Yeah. It's a process that requires patience.
It does, yes. Lots of.
I do struggle with.
And thin layers. It's a temptation to put lots of, with cans. I mean, I have got spray equipment, but I tend to do more with cans and things now. I used to be a car body sprayer in my apprenticeship way back. Right. I knew about working with that, and it would have been nitro or something like that back then, back in the early 80s. And the process is very similar, really. You've got wet or dry paper, rubbing it back. But with the guitar, you want it to look really nice, and so it's going. You go to finer levels of grit than you would with a car. If you're going to car, you might go to 1500 grit or something, or wet and dry. But you know, you can go to 2000 or something like that, you know, and smooth it down until it looks really nice. You're effectively polishing it at some stage.
Yes. Very well. It was also, I think that is confirming what he thought it was the right answer, but I think he just wanted some reassurance to keep on the path. We have Steve Cassidy here as well, greeting us. So hi, Steve. And Mustard, which is a regular as well. It was just, they've just asked, why do you prefer cans over like compressor with a spraying gun, or is it just a matter of, you know, never got down that path?
Well, I got you know, a spray booth with I've actually got you know, guns and everything, which is nice. And I have done that more in the past, not so much recently, because I find that now that the cans, you can go to places like Manchester, name dropping here, Manchester Guitar Tech. Speak to Steve. He's a great guy on knowledge on this, and also Northeast Guitars or somewhere like that, or Crimson Guitars, you know, anywhere.
No, those two are good because they're in the north and they're like an hour from me, so it's good resources if I ever need to go there in person. Although they do ship, so
that's right. So yeah, you know, to really. I'm using cans more just because the colours and things are in there, and the, you know, it's easier to use. I mean, people would argue with me and say you can get a better finish. I think, to be honest, you can get a good finish with something you wipe on, but it takes more patience because you have to rub everything down, you know.
Yeah.
I've had quite a good finish just using acrylic cans from the car body shop. You know, as long as you.
I was looking at because Amazon is selling the 4 cans of high coat acrylic spray, which I have used before, for like £15.
Yeah,
which is definitely more than enough to do the clear on a guitar. So, and acrylic doesn't automatically mean that's going to be a thick finish, because you can just do a little bit, doesn't it? And it's quite hard once it cures.
I tend to like Holt's. Holt's is, if you find it, it's a bit rare to find now, but Holt's acrylic lacquer works really well. It doesn't seem to react with some things. That's what you've got to be careful of with some of it. You don't know if it's going to bubble up, and so you always have to try these things on waste wood. Certainly do that, whatever you use. But a lot of the lacquer will work over stain and things like that. And so I think I put a picture of it up of Jotham, who works with me. We made a guitar, and we finished the whole guitar with stains and lacquered it with you know, just that kind of acrylic lacquer. And once we buffed it up, you know, we were amazed, really. So you know, and it doesn't yellow in the way that, I mean, some people like nitro because it yellows. You don't want that. Acrylic is probably the way to go, because it doesn't, you know, if it's a white guitar, it will stain all white rather than cream over time. Or if it's a blue, won't start turning green. That's right.
As it goes on.
Then probably use lacquer or poly, probably.
That's it. My friend here, Peter, is in between dreams, but he's a good friend of mine. He was saying that he used nitro and had no issues there. He did have some issues recently with was it acrylic? I think it was acrylic, because it started reacting with different things.
You have to test it, really. Yeah, you have to. It's best to use, if you're using acrylic, don't mix the brands, is what I would say. If there is a system that goes, you know, if it's Holt's or whatever it is, Simone's, you know, they're kind of, whatever brand you use, high coat, keep to their system. Don't mix things, you know, different things together. But you can very often. I suppose the main reason for using nitro is because they have a lot of the original classic colours, don't they? You know, you can get the classic cherry reds and that sort of thing. That's why I like it now.
Sorry, Peter was trying to not share his disasters, but he shares enough of my disasters online all the time, so it's fine. Steve has a question for us. I wanted to get back on track, but these guys are just asking questions. Everyone tonight is they never ask questions to me, but now you're here and everyone's asking all these questions that they've been having about things and like from a trustworthy source. So he says, I'm preparing a body for taking Bolt Guitars finish tomorrow. So Bolt Guitars finish is, I have this bottle here. So what they do is they partnered with little fairs up north here, and they sell a kit that it's like a Telecaster, but it comes in a box with a finish and sandpaper and everything sort of that you need. And they sort of design some of the elements of the pickups and the bridge and the tuners to be a bit more upmarket, let's say. And the paint, you see, it's a bit chalky at the bottom because this is mixed directly with gloss, and you have to shake it well. And then you wipe it on, and that's how I got that finish on that one.
Oh yeah.
On this one. Right. That I was showing you.
That looks really good. Did you rub it down between coats and that sort of thing? Do you have
yes. So it's you start rubbing it and it starts getting color, and then at the end I used the matte, which is also a wipe on, and then I tried to level sand it, but as you see, it's probably I could have done a better job because it's still a bit stripy. It's mostly flat. It feels flat. It feels nice, but I did have some drips. I'm trying to pick up the camera and not destroying the whole setup. A few drips here. You see that's got really hard to sand off.
If you get the same with spraying, really worth saying. If you if you get some orange peel or drips or something like that, do not panic. Let it cure first, and then gently rub that out again with with wet or dry, probably 400 or that, and take it out. So the worst thing is to panic and say, "Oh, it's dripped. I'm going to do something to it while it's wet." You have to let it dry. But as a result, as regards finishing, you can find this out. Viewers may probably know this already, but the important thing is to get a flat. To have grain filler. If it's something like mahogany or ash,
this is mahogany, and we used grain filler on it a little bit.
Sort of things you need to grain fill them, and you can use something like Rustin's grain filler, or
that was exactly it that Peter had, but I ended up using his mixing a bit of that material. I don't even know what it is with white spirit, isn't it? And then rub it in.
Yeah, you can also use if you were doing it with true oil, say like that, or whatever you seal it with. I mean, some people would use shellac sealer. That would shellac is really good because shellac doesn't tend to react with anything, and it's also good because shellac you can put it between things that wouldn't normally go together. So if you're not sure what the finish is, with spray or even wipe shellac sealer on, which is basically French polish, and put that over layer, then you'll separate it from whatever is there, and you'll be able to finish over that because everything seems to stick to shellac.
Oh, okay, so you can use like shellac on top of grain filler just to make a flat surface, and then it will still do like adhere to whatever finish you put on.
That's right. It's kind of get out of jail method, but if you really don't know what it is and you're afraid, of what will happen if you put this different finish on, put a layer of shellac over it. And I've never found anything that goes horribly wrong with it, I have to say. I hope
one of us tries and it goes horribly wrong.
In my experience, it's a safe thing to do. But as far as finishing the guitar is concerned, you could either use vinyl sealer or like that, or but after you've grain filled it, there's different ways you can do that. You can just put the closest color of grain filler to your particular guitar, say it's mahogany or something, or you can color it as well. Some people do that. If it's going to be cherry red, color the grain filler. Make sure that's flat. So put it on with something like like sackcloth or something like and just get it in and go with it in line with the
with the grain.
with the
I
grain.
use I find the t-shirts that I no longer like,
That
and then cut them into pieces.
anything like that. Yeah, and then then rub that down, get it flat. Then you can seal it with with something like, I mean, there's various things you could use. You could use shellac, you could use boiled linseed oil, you could use
there's also this sort of like oil, finishing oil from Little Fairs, Crimson, True Oil, whatever. You don't see here, but my desk, this is a small office, and my desk has been abused with, I have pieces of sandpaper and abrasive pads, and it's just like, if you turn the camera, you just see a mound of things that I just pushed to the side. But just before Steve completely forgets or gets annoyed at me for not finishing the question, what he was asking was, they recommend, because both guitars, they put a video on it, they send a video with it, and they recommend using 320 grit before start putting on this sort of finish. That, yes, this bottle had an accident. I thought, I'm going to warm it up a little bit and put it in front of a fan heater, and went to do something else. And then I looked at it, and it was burbling, and it was having a bit of a problem here. So, but he only has two...
what most people suggest, isn't it? 320 is very popular.
Yeah, but he only has 240 and 400. Which one of these grits would it be better? 240 or 400?
400 is the closest to it, so that would work.
There you go, Steve.
I wouldn't use anything rougher than that, really, for it. 400, 320, 400. Even 600, but 400 would be the closest to that. So that would be my recommendation.
I did see someone saying that 240 was also, but maybe it was more furniture, and I was playing it to guitars. And again, sometimes it's different tolerances, isn't it? That 240 it's good because you lets the stain in more, or whatever finish you're putting on top for the pores. But
it's not science, of course, and there's always somebody who does something successfully. I haven't done that, but try it. I think the thing is to experiment on something, not your guitar, and a piece of. The great thing about Coben guitars, I noticed, is that they give you a piece of maple. I've got this 3-3. Maybe it's accidental, but I think it's in there, so you can probably test the finish, which is
or do like a headstock if you ask for a little bit. If you order through the website, you get the veneer in it to whatever. It's really handy because sometimes it's hard, because for example, for this green one that's actually spotted maple, I was using Angela's leather dye, and if I had used the veneer, I would have noticed that the leather dye goes straight through the veneer. It goes much deeper, so when working with veneers, probably is not the best, because there's less ability to like the sand back and do everything else. Okay, so let's just get this back on track. Mustard here is just saying, if you want to know about grain filler, ask Fender USA, because they put enough in his Strat to anchor a cruise ship. Apparently, Fender goes really heavy on grain filler. So you started, building your guitars and stuff because it was like an alternative to what you found, and you actually started finding out what sort of things worked better. At what point did you decide that you're going to start doing this for other people?
Well, I really started with this young chap, Jotham, who was one of my guitar students. And for a project at school, he wanted to build a guitar. And it really started with him buying a very cheap kind of Strat. He was going to put a different body on it. And at that time, I closed down my shop. So I took all the tools out of there, and they'd got a large barn, so I took them over there. And then it wasn't long before he said, well, can we do this, can we change this? And it ended up that we put a different fingerboard on it. I had some inlays, so he wanted inlays like Gibson Les Paul, like the standard, like the crown inlays. So we actually cut those, which I hadn't done before. We put a new truss rod in it. We changed the body. Then he wanted the body to be like Mark Knopfler's Pincer Sur kind of thing.
Yes. The drop top with the plain maple cap. Oh, that guitar has been giving me dreams.
The length of the original guitar was a bit at the back of the neck and the headstock. we changed everything else. And when we looked at it, you know, we thought, yeah, actually, I would like to do that. So I've got an example here. I built this. This is, I think this is about the third guitar I built. And this was built in a kind of Brian May way. The body is a kitchen worktop. You might be
All right.
right there. The neck actually was a piece of Brazilian mahogany. And I decided to dunk stripe in the back there anyway. So I put that in. And I wanted it to be like a, you know, like a broadcaster, or like early Telecaster. So I wound my own pickups, and
all right.
So the only bits that on here that I didn't make were the metal bits, really. Everything else here has been made. So even the I put a separate maple fingerboard, and you can see that's very worn because I actually wanted it to be very thin. I don't know if that was a mistake.
So that's not a factory relic.
Yeah, that's right. It kind of got relic because I put a very thin layer of lacquer on there, and of course it went through in no time. But I kind of like the feel of it. So this the maple here actually came from a gym somewhere in London. A friend gained that, so we had that, and that was where that came from. You know,
and why did you decide to leave it like a see-through finish, being the kitchen top, and you see the different pieces? Did you not think of like, oh, maybe I'll put just a solid color to not see the woods, or it's like maybe that's a feature of the guitar itself?
Yeah, I mean, it was what it was, and what I did with this, I wanted it to be kind of butterscotch, so I got some water-based stain, kind of butterscotch stain, and then I just lacquered over that with, I think it was just acrylic lacquer or something, and I found it went. So when it was done, I thought, well, it is what it is, you know, since it's for me, and it's several years now. But yeah, you could. I mean, I could have used a solid color, and then I would go over that. That wouldn't have shown. But it was kind of. It's
a conversation starter as well. Like, well, what's going on with that time? Then you can go on about to explain. Like, no, I did this. This is not from factory, my friends. That's great. Peter Collins was saying here earlier as well that he must be similar age to you, and it was terrible starting off with guitar in the 70s. So little information available about anything. Starter guitars were very poor compared to what you can buy today. I didn't know. I was still to be born in many years, like many years later. So
they were awful. The guitars. I mean, I actually, the first decent guitar I bought was in the 80s, and I happened to be around when I was at college. This guy called Jock, who'd had a music shop from the Scottish guy, had music shop there since the 1950s, and he used to sell Fenders. And so by the 80s, we got the first JVs, you know, the Japanese.
Ah, yes, that now are hardly regarded.
Old mine, but I bought it, and it was actually the year 83 when they first came. And I went in his shop, and he said, "See, I can remember these when they first come out." He's going. So he said, you know, he'd even got like a magazine from them, 59, and you know, had USA pickups, and I was convinced. So I had my first Squire from there, and looking at it, had a far better idea about, you know, how the decent guitars were made. It was a lovely piece of ash, finished in kind of Buddy Holly two-tone sunburst, and that was an education. So, before that, I had a Les Paul copy, which wasn't too bad. I suppose it was a Rose Morris, but I learned a lot by that. I pulled that apart and intonated it and dressed the frets, and so because I lived out in the country, you know, you couldn't easily get to a shop, and there weren't many shops that would even take on something like that. So got myself an oil stone, that sort of thing, and I think there was a book. There were some books from the local library. My first education was, and if you haven't found this, a book by the now late, sadly, Melvyn Hiscock, called "Build Your Own Electric Guitar," and I actually will make your own electric guitar.
I think I've seen pictures of it. I've never read it, but I've
Yeah, you can get the first. Well, he actually, just before he passed away a couple of years ago, he'd made another version of it. I don't know if that's good, but my advice would be get the very first one if you can find it on Amazon. Get the first issue, and actually, there's everything you need to know about guitar making in there. And after all these years, I have two copies of it. My original copy, you can hardly read it now. It's got so many highlights and notes in there. But everything from cutting the wood to designing it to fretting it, to finishing it, all of it is in there. And funnily enough, this guitar that Jotham and I made, I actually sent a picture to. Because he was on my Facebook friends, so I actually sent it to Melvyn Hiscock, and he liked it. So that was enough. I was pleased.
Nice.
Well,
and he wasn't the only one, because Peter Collins, when he was saying about the telly that you just showed, that's a really nice looking telly. Peter was saying, I actually really like the different stripes or strips of wood in that. Steve Cassidy mentions that. So that's what the guitar looks like when it's built by someone that knows what they're doing.
Oh, thank you.
And Peter Collins also mentions that his first decent guitar, which he still has, was the 1983 Squier SQ Strat. So you're definitely around the same time. And
that's right. I was 20 then. I can give my age away. The other thing, this is a work in progress. This is actually the Coburn guitar, and at the moment it's got two strings on. As far as I've got at the moment is I fitted the neck, and you might see on my page that I did a little bit of research on it, and because I hadn't made a 335 before, I always wanted to make one of these, and I have the idea of making a 64 version of it. So I looked at different neck angles, and it seems to me like the one that the angle that comes with Coburn is pretty much close. If you wanted to be a bit lower, and maybe if I wanted to be a fraction lower, I would just take a very small. You have to be careful with this. Take a very small amount off the back of the heel, because this has got the long tenon on. But I mean,
how does it?
Yeah, it's got.
Is it the long tenon one?
Yeah, if I can't get that out now. But
it's because the pickup, it goes under the pickup. That's right, because in order to glue this, I had to put a clamp there where the pickup is. So that's what they mean by long tenon, isn't it?
That's right. The long tenon is the one that actually goes underneath the front pickup. I can't easily get this out. Oh, maybe I can. Just bear with me. I haven't screwed the thing. Oh right, yeah. Yeah, so I just put that in there so I can see the height. You can see. Can you see that? That's
indeed. Yeah.
I think if you looked at the original, 59 one, it's a bit narrower than that, and they would have a couple of kind of filler pieces at each side. I don't know why Gibson did that, because this is an ideal way of doing it.
Because Gibson, like all factories and businesses, likes to cut corners.
Right, yeah. But the way it's done here is I can say is really good, makes it really easy to do. And so I mean, the instructions that come with Coburn is great. I would say when you're doing this, really be careful. That because if I use Type Bond, which they recommend, and Type Bond I've used for years, once it's in there, it's not going to come out without breaking the guitar up. So
no.
Really.
So, is there any sort of wood glues that you don't recommend?
Sorry, what was the last question?
Is there any sort of wood glues that you wouldn't recommend? For example, Gorilla Glue, or I used some sort of quick wood glue on this because it was what I had around the house. It's like it says bound in 10 minutes, dry in 2 hours. It's like, that's good enough for me.
I would say, it might be obvious, but anything obviously like rubbery, like Evo stick, or don't use super glue because that will stick it immediately. No. You won't be able to move it. Ordinary wood glue, probably not, because that can creep. And that can be a problem. Not so much with the neck if it's clamped, but certain things will move, which type. You could.
So tight bond really is
It
the
gives you
standards, and it's
if it's
safe, it's readily available everywhere, easy to work, and
that's right. Don't use epoxy because you know as soon as you put it in there, it's fixed. If you use something like if you use tight bond and you come back 10 minutes later, don't leave it half an hour or something. You come back 10 minutes later and you say that's not the right angle. You will be able to put some water around there. You will be able to get that neck out again.
all right.
It's based on water, even, and you might be able to move it anyway, but if you've got something like any of the other things like that use hardener or something, that's your lot. You'll never get that out again. So
you need to get a new thing. So not Peter, Dave was asking, do you always glue the set necks before doing finishing, even if or do you, for example, on this one I did the neck and the body separate just to allow me to do like the scraping a bit more easily, but then I didn't know all the steps. I don't know what I'm doing. I was just like taking as I go, but probably there's a process to it, and the process of putting the bridge and putting the strings, lining everything up, making the neck set, and then working on everything does sound.
That's right. I think it's important that it's a playable guitar. I've actually got two guitars. It was a coincidence. I bought the Coburn one, but a guy has come to me with two Stu Mac 335s, and I'll have a chance to look at those. One he wants me to paint the Union Jack on, which is a guy from Oasis, and the other wants to put the neck in. And I'll probably do it the way that I've done it here. I like to put it and make sure that the guitar is playable. Whether I put a bolt on neck, at least if it was a bolt on neck, I would put that together first, because it may be the most wonderful finish that you get,
and then it's like the neck doesn't match and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I think once you've done it, I've actually got, this is something I was thinking about this, but maybe not to answer your question, but I was thinking about the binding, you see, and I looked at original 1964s, and the Gibsons seem to be sprayed over the binding that's in here, and I looked at some of the other guitars, and you can see that's they've cleaned the binding, and I thought this is the only idea. I haven't done this yet. You can get in there and scrape it, which is kind of after it's sprayed, which is a bit difficult. But what I'm going to try this, and don't do it first, because unless you know this will work, I think, well, why couldn't you actually get something that the lacquer doesn't stick to, like candle wax? Put that the whole way around. Then when you do spray it,
before, and
that's
then
going to be stuck to that, so you're not going to have to. Maybe it will come off. I will let you know if that works.
Please do. Yeah, that's a good idea. Because scraping is such a pain, and I've learned after that it's color, scrape, and then gloss. Or
that seems to be the way that the experts do. And I'm not, my knowledge comes from looking at people like Stu Mac and looking at people who are experienced with doing it. And that seems to be the way, yes, to put the color. I mean, if you're doing something like this, which is like the 335, which has actually got a veneer over, you don't want to put raw stain onto that. That will be blotchy, So the best thing to do is have like coloured lacquer and spray it, because if you get the stain into the veneer, you won't be able to get that out, and of course it's so thin.
I did use crimson stain, the Patalo blue on this one, and a bit of purple, and then I just had to scrape a lot, but it wasn't.
That looks great. Having said that, so you can ignore what I said then. That was my experience. Is maybe I'm a bit heavy-handed with it, but
no, look. They're not mocking. They're pulling at me because. Steve says I'm Nike. I'm the just do it guy. Like I have an idea and I go ahead and I do it, and then I check. Yeah. So I put the stain. It's like, oh, it's altering blue, and there's still bits around here but then I just use some sort of blade and just scrape it. Even then, though, that I didn't put then gloss on top of it because I scraped it after.
Yes, you can get something like a I actually use a Stanley blade. Some people would use a razor blade, and maybe you can either use your thumb if you're confident that you can keep it the same distance, or you could make your own little jig that is the right distance. With those things, I tend to not like to have a machine to do it, because sometimes you can become a bit too safe with it, if you like.
I was just going
nice
with the blades.
Skills.
And actually, the top was easier because you can sort of get at an angle and start coming through and taking it away. It's quite relaxing once you get the hang of it. I just wanted to ask you your opinion on a little mod that I did, and probably have a good tip on how to actually do this. So what I've done is that I took a circular saw to the guitar and cut an access port, let's call it.
Oh, I see. You see,
and then I put the electronics in through the back.
Yeah.
I think all semi-hollows nowadays should have an access panel port here, because it makes no sense. But I'm probably wrong.
Did you put pieces of wood behind to stop it going through? Like, how do you stop it? Just
yes. So I put a little piece of wood here and at the bottom as well. So, and then I glued it with I got it with the painter's tape rolled onto itself, and I just whacked it in there. So it's like, if I push it back, it will come out. But after having put the glove and everything,
that takes nerve. But you've done a good job there, I think.
Takes nerve is a good way of being reckless, but but I thought, no one sees when I'm playing. No one sees when I'm playing. Who will know? No one will know. Only I will know. It can't be improved, not by Raf. Come on, they don't understand. But yes. So
my phone charge is running down a bit here, so I don't know. So if I get cut off or something in 10 minutes time, I do apologise. It seems to be going down a bit quicker than I expected. So
it's almost been an hour as well that we've been talking here.
So, but I'm happy to be here. I'll keep here, but if I go, I haven't left you. Only technology let me down. No, I'll keep talking, keep asking questions.
So yes. So it's the chat is trying to making me lose my concentration.
Yeah.
So Coben guitars, right? Let me just recoup on that. So as everyone knows by now, I think I'm working with Mark on Coben to get the brand more out there. They are sourced. They're not made here. He sources it from abroad, but comparing to other things that are in the market, do you think that there's more quality there? The thing that was attracted me to them was like the wood choices, the ebonies, the mahoganies, the ash, the maple, that sort of stuff, the dimensions. There is sometimes frets that need to be leveled. The nut usually needs to be cut a bit better. The electronics are soldierless, which is easier, but the pickups are not like the highest grade of things, or neither are the tuners. But what's your take? For example, you mentioned that you had like Stumac kits and Coben kits.
I mean, the only other kit that I've had, so I'm probably not the person to ask, because I haven't had too many. The Coben I'm really pleased with. Before that, I'd had a Gibson Les Paul Junior, which was from a company called Muso, I think, which is Chinese. And that took a while to come, but actually that was okay. But it had some splits in the wood, and there was nothing like that in Coben. I mean, everything about this, the binding, wherever it's made, and the neck, and also it's got the headstock, so you can cut it, to your own. And I was just looking, doing a bit of research on the 335s and things, and found that the dimensions of the Coben one is pretty close to what I wanted. So I haven't really tried lots of others. I will let you know about the Stumac ones when they come, and I will measure those while they're in my possession. I imagine they'll be pretty good as well. But I think, probably most of the kits are. It will just be a difference in the quality. What I would say, they talk about basswood and things, but basswood is a bit like alder, really. So I would think that if you wanted swamp ash or something like that, you'd go to Warmouth or something and get that. That would be an expensive.
And then just the body is like several kits worth, like money wise. Just a Warmouth body is so expensive. But it's quality stuff, but it's very expensive, especially for us here in UK.
Well, from my experience so far, I would say Coburn is a good way to go, and they're not, and they're certainly competitive, and it looks like it's going to be good. I would say that the Muso kits, probably there's a lot. I mean, the different companies have different models, and if I was going to make a Les Paul custom guitar. Muso do one with the block inlays and all the binding, like
on the headstock as well.
Like a custom. So if that's what you fancy doing, probably get one of those. And I certainly. I mean, it wasn't anything big. I mean, there was just like the odd, little split in the wood that you could feel, and it might just my particular one had that,
And sometimes the tricky thing about kits that come straight from China and from other places is then who do you call? You have a question, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You can message them and they're like, don't understand. Come again.
the great thing that I talked to Mark, he said to go on the phone and said, tell you what, could you possibly do this, or could you put that piece of would it be possible to swap the pickups for that? You might or might not do that, but you can get onto a phone and talk these things through, which is what you say. So that would be the advantage of going to someone in the UK or that you can talk to.
Peter Collins here is mentioning that the access hole is a great idea, Ralph. So you see, I'm vindicated.
Like that.
I used to have an Epiphone Sheraton, but never liked the pickups. But it's hell of a job trying to pull everything out through the F-holes. Never got around to doing it. And this was the sort of thing I was like, this is a kit guitar. Probably I won't fall in love with the pickups, although Peter is here and we have all sorts of theories about how much pickups actually matter and how much is it worth spending on pickups. But like if I want to change it and like go for Filtertrons or different humbuckers or P90s or whatever, I don't want to be limited and think like, oh, I'll have to go get the tubing and then do everything all over again. So that's why I had it done that way. Well, I think we're about the hour mark. I'm afraid that your phone is just going to die at any minute. And we had a good chat, and we have to stop while people are still wanting more. While they're still like, oh, I wish I could have asked, but I don't know if you'd like to revisit maybe next month. You'd come again.
I would love to do a part 2, and if in future at some point.
Sure. That's I'll really enjoy that. I've really enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Same here
with us. And there's still, I'm sure, many stories. And you mentioned your background in electronics and circuits and amps and everything. So that's a whole other discussion that I'm also looking forward to picking your brains about.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And with that all being said, thanks so much everyone for watching. And I'll see you next week again here, Friday, 8:30 p.m. Bye-bye.